Okay. 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 Hi, everybody. Thank you for clicking on this video. This is my first ever book review on what I hope will become my book review channel. My name is Emily. For those of you who don't know me, I am a master's student in children's literature, and I have wanted to do book reviews for forever. I thought about starting a blog or starting a website kind of thing, but I figured that this would be a really fun way to do some book reviews. A little bit about me. Most of my interests lie in the horror genre. I love everything horror, films, books, games, you name it. Not just kids stuff, but a lot of it is kids stuff. I think scary stories for kids are fascinating, and I think there's a lot to talk about when we talk about scary stories for kids. So I really am excited to do some reviews of scary books for you guys. And I thought I would start this channel off right by doing a Goosebumps review. Being a children's literature student and loving horror as much as I do, I am of course obsessed with Goosebumps. I grew up reading Goosebumps. Goosebumps is very nostalgic for me. I actually never stopped reading Goosebumps. Like, I read a lot of Goosebumps in my personal life. So I thought I would do a review of a cult favorite Goosebumps for you guys today. And that is Night of the Living Dummy, of course, starring Slappy, who all of us Goosebumps fans will be very familiar with. Night of the Living Dummy is part of the original Goosebumps series that was published between 1992 and 1997 by Scholastic. There were 62 books in that series, 62 books in 5 years. R.L. Stine is an incredibly prolific writer. He writes so fast and in such high volumes, it really boggles my mind. And to this day, he's still pumping out books. It is amazing. This one came out in May 1993, which is a little bit of, it's a ways away now, but I think it really holds up. I think it is scary as ever, and I think this is one of Stine's best books. There are a lot of Goosebumps books that are a little bit suspect. I'm not going to mention names, but chicken, I'm going to mention names. You guys always have chicken at the ready. I feel like nobody talks about Chicken. Like, Chicken is one of the craziest Goosebumps books out there. Like, this warrants a conversation, you guys. Like, this is crazy. This book is wild. I think I'll probably do it in another video at some point, but anyway. This is one of my favorite of the original Goosebumps books, and I think it's sort of a cult favorite among fans for a reason. Stine is sort of at his best here. He's writing with a lot of horror tradition at his back. He's writing an interesting story, and he's got a lot of really good scares in this book. There are some points that are really creepy, even to me to this day when I was rereading this yesterday. So since this book came out in 1993, Slappy has become a bit of an iconic figure in the Goosebumps universe, more so than even The Haunted Mask or Monster Blood or some of his other popular works. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this, but mostly I think it's because Slappy is so marketable. And if there is one thing that Goosebumps is interested in, it's marketing. Slappy spearheads sales of merchandise, of new series, of the movie. He's the main antagonist in the Goosebumps movie from 2015 starring Jack Black. Slappy is sort of everywhere in this series. So I want to focus a little bit on what I think Stine does really well here, especially in comparison to a lot of his other books. What I think he does very strongly in Night of the Living Dummy is use the uncanny. The concept of the uncanny has made it into many popular conversations recently, especially as robotics, animation, VR have all been advancing in a general sense, but also in the art and entertainment industry in particular. For example, many of you guys will be familiar with the idea of the uncanny valley, which indicates the point at which humanoid robots become just human enough to be really, really creepy. It's that feeling where we get our hair on the back of our necks standing up, or we get, yes, goosebumps. In literature, we often talk about the uncanny as being an uncomfortable or unsettling combination of what is familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Ventriloquist dummies are a great example of the uncanny because they're made to look human, but their features are so distorted that they don't really look human at all. They're in a familiar shape, but they're extremely alien and unfamiliar at the same time. So this sort of delves into the realm of the uncanny valley. In literature, we talk about the uncanny not just applying to characters or figures like mannequins or dummies or corpses or any of those popular examples, but we also talk about it applying to situations and it applying to sort of space-time. The uncanny exists basically as a feeling of dread, a feeling that something is totally off, especially when everything looks normal or okay, or seems normal or okay, but we just know that something wrong is going on here. There's something taboo that's happening that we can't quite put our finger on, but it just feels off. Stine does the uncanny very well in Night of the Living Dummy, not only because dummies already sort of exist in that uncanny valley, they're already sort of humanoid figures that are very, very creepy, or have the potential to be very creepy, but because he has treated these dummies as objects that have come to life. He assigns human characteristics to objects that normally would be lifeless, and that really raises the hair on the back of readers' necks. For example, from page 15, she stared into the dummy's bright blue painted eyes. To her surprise, the dummy seemed to be staring back at her, a twinkle of sunlight in his eyes, his grin wide and knowing. It's that knowing that is the scary part there, because inanimate objects can't know things, but things that are alive can. And it's just that little bit of confusion, that little bit of unfamiliarity, you know? From page 22, okay, Lindy muttered, blushing. She avoided Chris's angry stare. I'm sorry, here. She dumped Slappy into Chris's arms. Chris was so surprised she nearly dropped the dummy. Slappy was heavier than she'd imagined. Ventriloquist dummies can be heavy, but you know what else is heavy? Alive things. And then from page 24, a gust of wind made the soft curtains flutter against her face. Chris pushed them away and peered down at the dummy's painted head. She reached a hand out and rubbed his wooden hair, shining in the moonlight. His head felt warm, warmer than she'd imagined. So here we get the sense that Stine is assigning human characteristics to this object, which very much makes it uncanny. It's that combination of the familiar and the unfamiliar that really creeps us out in this book, and he does it throughout the whole thing. There are some really, really scary parts. Even before Mr. Wood comes alive, and even before Slappy is revealed to be alive as well. It's just this idea that this thing is always sitting there with you and you're interacting with this thing as an object, but it knows, it sees, it hears, it understands what you're saying. Like, it's really, really creepy to think that this thing not only is watching you, but wishes you harm. In other words, Stine is harnessing a long literary tradition of using the uncanny in horrific and scary situations. Stine also does a great job of making Slappy and Mr. Wood creepy by virtue of the fact that they are found objects. Lindy finds Slappy in a dumpster, of all places. And Chris's dad buys her dummy, Mr. Wood, from a pawn shop. Found objects like these have a long history in horror media. When you find something or buy something that has been previously thrown away, that object has a story and a history that you really know nothing about. And not only does it imply that it was owned by someone before, or it had a life before you, but it also implies that somebody threw it away for a reason, you know? This is Jumanji being dug up out of the ground. This is the Ouija board that somehow makes it back inside the house no matter how many times people try and throw it away, which incidentally does actually happen in this book. Mr. Wood, after being buried in a suitcase, ends up back in the house having crawled up out of the ground. There's a lot more to talk about with this book, but I wanted to keep this video pretty short, so I'm going to stop there. Kids, if you like Night of the Living Dummy, check out Doll Bones by Holly Black. This book is about 3 kids that go on an adventure with a haunted doll. It has a lot of similar scares to Night of the Living Dummy, and it makes use of the uncanny very well, so check this one out. And also in the world of kids' horror, if you haven't read Coraline yet, get on it. This is one of the scariest books in all of children's literature as far as I'm concerned. Neil Gaiman is a master of the uncanny. This is one of the most spine-tingling books I've ever read. Kids tend to find it less scary than adults do, which is very interesting. I would absolutely check it out. Even if you've seen the movie, the book is quite a bit different. Read the book. It's amazing. It's like Night of the Living Dummy on steroids, basically. So enjoy. Grown-ups, if you haven't seen any of the cool dummy-themed horror films out there, I would highly recommend them. Magic from 1978, starring Anthony Hopkins, is very good. And if you do check that one out, or not, check out its 30-second trailer on YouTube. I'll link it in the description, actually. It's really, really cool. Also, check out Primal Screen. It's a documentary about children who saw the trailer for Magic back in 1978 when it came out and developed a lifelong fear of dummies. It's all about the Uncanny Valley. It's a really, really good documentary. This might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I love the 2007 film Dead Silence, directed by James Wan and written by Lee Winnell. It's a lot of fun. I love the noir aspects of the movie. It has a kind of a crazy twist at the end, and it's definitely pretty scary in some points, so it's a good Friday night horror movie if you guys want to watch something pretty fun. You know, pretty fun. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this. I'm gonna go. Okay, bye. This is my first ever review and I'm like so weird. This is gonna take some practice.